Hey guys, this evening I'm going to share with you me sewing a little cape for my great niece for Christmas. So if my family's watching, please keep that quiet, that it's for my niece Kinsley. So anyway, I can't give you the pattern because the pattern is not mine. But I thought you might just enjoy watching me sew this and getting it made for her. So what I've got here is I had to cut two of my outer fabrics, and then you have to, two of the outer fabric for the cape, and then you cut two of the lining on the fold. Both of them are cut on the fold. And then you do the little hood. You do one a lining for the hood, and then you got your outer fabric for the hood. Here I'm putting in a little piece of interfacing down the front edges of the cape. What that's going to do is give you some stability and fullness behind your outer edges there from where you're going to put snaps or buttons. And that's going to keep your fabric from tearing. Um, Here I'm just using my Cricut and trying to press this piece of interfacing down. And then I realized that I had my interfacing on the wrong side. So it's fuzzy side up, rough side down, where the glue is on the rough side. So anyway, I can put it back on and go ahead and get my Cricut up or my Cricut Easy Press and press it back on, and it does fine. It didn't hurt it a bit because, excuse me, I didn't hold it down long enough for it to do any damage. But anyway, you just have to put this interfacing on your edges. It's like a 1 inch strip is what it was supposed to be in, but I bought it and just cut two strips out, and they were probably about 1.5 inches. And I don't even know how long it was. It's the length of the little cape itself. And here you see me putting it on both sides of my piece of fabric that I had laying there. What I didn't do was switch my fabrics, because you're only supposed to put it on the outer edges of the two. And because your back seams sew together. Um, so anyway, I end up having to cut another piece of interfacing and sewing it on, or fusing it to the outer edge where my snaps are gonna go, because I'm gonna put snaps on this. I'm not gonna put buttons on it. Real quick, I don't think I told you the fabric I'm using is Minky for the outside and flannel for the inside. Alright guys, we're here at the sewing machine. I'm going to show you how to sew each piece together. This is the hood. We're going to put right sides together, and we're going to sew from the front of the forehead to the base of the neck, leaving your bottom open and your front open, using a 1/2 inch seam. Here is what I'm going to sew, is what I'm sewing. And then you're going to do this is your liner here. You're going to sew it the same exact way, front of the forehead to the base of the neck, 1/2 inch seam. Next up will be your outer fabric for your cape. You're just going to sew your back two pieces together, your back seam. You're just going to sew straight down your back seam. This is Minky. And just a caution, when you're using Minky fabric, be careful. It does tend to push or stretch. So you got to hang on to your edges and just be careful. Make sure it's not stretching on you or sliding around. To prevent it from sliding around, all you need to do is take some of these little clips like I'm using here and just clip your fabric together, and just make sure you're holding it fairly taut, or not. You don't want to hold it so tight you're pulling it, but you want to hold it nice and snug. Just make sure your fabric isn't slipping anywhere. And here I ran out of bobbin. I was sewing so well down that seam and I ran out of bobbin. But anyway, I finished up and got it all sewed back for you. And now I'm going to pull up the lining and do the same thing. Just sew down the back seam, sewing those two pieces together. And just remember to use about a 1/2 inch seam here. Here I'm just sewing the liner hood to the liner cape. So you want to put your right sides together and make sure you have your hood turned right. I didn't have my hood turned right here to begin with. I flipped it straight over and forgot to turn it over again. You want to put the nape of your neck of the hood to the nape of the cape. I hope that makes sense. So just make sure where the neck's gonna be, that's where the neck of the hood's gonna fit. And make sure you just let your fabrics fall natural and go from corner to corner and just clip it with these little clips, and just make sure your fabric, like I said, is laying all straight and nice and smooth, and everything will go together perfect for you. And just remember to sew with that 1/2 inch seam here. And make sure you cut those little darts in where it has the little curves around your hood. Do it on your outer fabric and your liner. Just cut those darts, that way your hood will turn really nice and pretty for you. Alright, and here I'm just going to put on the hood and to attach it to the cape part. And here I'm just cutting the little darts in real quick, so I don't forget to do it. But make sure you put the nape of the hood to the nape of the I will keep wanting to call it a cloak, and it's a cape. But just do it the same way you did the liner. Make sure everything's laying nice and flat for you. Make sure your seams are straight in the center. That's what I do. I just pick my seam first. I clip it first, and then I work my way out to the outer edges. Just make sure your seams are always together. And just remember to sew the 1/2 inch seam. And always make sure to double check where you've just sewn and make sure you got everything caught. It's better to do it now than when you get all that stuff sewed together and you have to go back and redo it. Alright, here I'm putting my liner in my outer fabric. You're just going to put your right sides together. Your face sides of the fabric are going to be together. And I clipped this whole cape. I clipped the hood. I started my seams. You'll notice here I go ahead and get my seams done. Make sure everything's lining up. And I go ahead and clip it with these clips all the way around. Just make sure everything's laying nice and flat. And go all the way. Yep, just keep going all the way around the cloak until you get to the center seam. Make sure your center seams are on. And come on back up the other side and make sure your neck seam's on and your hood seams stay straight at the top. Alright, you're going to start here at the back seam. This is your very back seam. I'm making sure it's all straight. And when you start sewing back here, you're going to start sewing 2 inches away from that center seam. I always sew with my fabric to my left. All I'm doing here is I'm starting it out, and I actually use my sewing machine as a holding spot well, while I finish clipping the rest of this little cape. But make sure that seams are always on. If your seams are always matching, you can't go wrong. But I'm going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam around this entire cape. And when I get back around to the center again, I'm going to make sure I stop 2 inches from that center seam because I want it to make a 4-inch opening. So I hope it makes sense. I'm starting 2 inches away from the seam. Going to sew all the way around my cape. And then I'm going to stop 2 inches from that center seam on the back. And that's going to leave a 4-inch opening. And that's where I'm going to turn my cape. When you get to the corners, make sure your needle's down in the corner and lift your presser foot up and turn your fabric under it. That'll always hold it for you. Always make sure your needle's down when you're adjusting your fabric or you're turning to go up another side. Alright, and here we're coming up on the seam at the back where we're going to stop and leave 2 inches away. Now, we're going to cut our strings all off and remove the clip there on the back at the seam and just turn your cape. Alright, after you get it turned, I'm going to show you the little opening at the bottom. And all you'll do is actually pull on it and the fabric should fold itself. But you're going to hold it up just like that. It should all lay flat. We'll eventually sew a top stitch all the way around. This is the finished look with the top stitch and the snaps added.